The call came in at 3:41 in the morning. I've responded to thousands of emergencies over the last 10 years. Heart attacks, fatal crashes, house fires, overdoses. You learn how to compartmentalize things. You have to. Otherwise, the job destroys you. But there are a handful of calls I still think about. Calls that don't make sense. Calls nobody could explain. Calls that never appeared in official reports. And out of all of them, one incident still terrifies me more than anything else. Because I wasn't the first responder. I was the last. The dispatch notes were simple. Welfare check. Single-family residence. Female caller. Reported hearing someone walking around inside her attic. The homeowner was elderly. 72 years old. Lived alone. The dispatcher assumed it was an animal. A raccoon. A squirrel. Something like that. The woman disagreed. She told dispatch the footsteps only happened after midnight, and they always stopped when she turned on the lights. By the time my partner Jake and I arrived, rain was pouring down hard enough to blur the windshield. The house sat alone at the end of a dead-end road. No nearby neighbors. No street lights. Just darkness. The homeowner met us at the door. Tiny woman. Shaking hands. Pale face. The kind of fear you usually see after a break-in. She immediately led us inside. Before we even asked questions, she pointed at the ceiling. Listen. We stood there, silent, waiting. At first I heard nothing. Then, thump. A single footstep, directly above us. Jake looked at me. Then another step. Slow. Measured. Definitely not an animal. It sounded like a person. The woman started crying. I told them. Jake grabbed a flashlight. I headed toward the attic access. The house suddenly felt colder. Not physically colder, just wrong. Like every instinct was telling me something wasn't normal. We pulled down the attic ladder. Jake climbed first. I followed. The attic was empty, completely empty. No signs of entry. No animals. No nesting. Nothing. We searched every corner. Nothing. Then Jake called my name. His voice sounded strange. Tight. Controlled. I found him standing near the far wall. Looking down, there was dust everywhere except one spot. A path. A clear trail. As if someone had been walking back and forth repeatedly. The footprints didn't lead to the attic entrance. They led directly into the wall. Not a hidden door. Not a crawl space. A solid wall. The tracks simply ended. Jake stared at them. I stared at them. Neither of us said anything. Because there wasn't anything to say. The footprints went into solid wood and stopped. We left shortly afterward. No evidence. No suspect. Nothing actionable. The report classified it as undetermined activity. 2 weeks later, the homeowner disappeared. No signs of forced entry. No evidence of a struggle. Her front door remained locked. The only unusual detail? Fresh footprints in the attic, leading into the wall. That was the first incident. I wish it had been the strangest. It wasn't. About 3 years later, I responded to a rollover accident outside Columbus. Single vehicle. Driver trapped. Heavy rain. Poor visibility. The caller claimed a truck had gone off the road. When we arrived, we found the truck immediately. Upside down in a ditch. Bad damage. The driver was still alive. Barely. We worked for nearly 20 minutes to free him. The entire time, he kept trying to tell us something. At first, I thought he was confused. Head injuries do that. Then he grabbed my wrist. Hard enough to hurt, and whispered, "Don't let them find me." I assumed he meant police. Maybe he had warrants. Maybe he was intoxicated. It happens. I told him to focus on breathing. Then he shook his head violently. No. His eyes locked onto mine. They followed me here. I looked around. Empty highway. Rain. No vehicles. Nothing. The man started crying. Actual tears. Then he said something I'll never forget. They were the faces wrong. I asked what he meant. He opened his mouth. But before he could answer, every light around us went out. The ambulance lights. The fire truck lights. Even our handheld flashlights. Everything. Pitch black. For maybe 3 seconds. Maybe 4. Then everything came back. The driver was gone. Not dead. Gone. The wrecked truck remained. The hydraulic cutters remained. I remained. But the driver had vanished. Nobody ever explained it. The state police investigated. Search teams came. Dogs came. Nothing. No blood trail. No footprints. No evidence. 1 second he was trapped in twisted metal. The next, he was gone. Officially, the report listed him as a missing person. Unofficially, nobody ever mentioned the case again. Not after the security footage disappeared. Not after every digital record became corrupted. Not after the photographs came back blank. The strangest part? 6 months later, I received a phone call. Private number. No voice. Just breathing. Then a whisper. A familiar whisper. They almost found me. The line disconnected. I changed my number after that. The third incident happened during my 7th year. And this is where things start becoming difficult to explain. The call came from an abandoned elementary school scheduled for demolition. Multiple callers reported lights inside, movement, possible trespassers. Police requested medical standby. Routine assignment, or so we thought. The building looked dead. Broken windows, collapsed fencing, graffiti everywhere. We expected homeless squatters. Instead, we found classrooms. Perfectly clean classrooms. No dust, no debris, nothing. As if the school had been operating normally all along. Every clock showed the same time. 2:17. Every single one. Even the battery-operated clocks. Police officers started checking rooms. Jake and I followed. The deeper we went, the stranger things became. Fresh footprints appeared in hallways coated with dust. Children's artwork hung on walls despite the school being abandoned for 15 years. And then we heard voices. Children laughing. Somewhere nearby. The officers heard them too. Everyone stopped, listening. The laughter echoed through the building, then stopped instantly. One officer called out. No response. We followed the sound to room 14. The door stood open. The room was empty, except for one thing. A class photograph. Recent. Not old. Recent. The photo showed 22 children standing with a teacher. All smiling. All looking normal. Until we realized something. The teacher was standing backward. Not facing backward. Standing backward. Her body faced one direction. Her head faced another. Nobody spoke. Nobody touched the photograph. One officer picked up his radio. And that's when a child's voice answered. Not dispatch. Not another officer. A child. The voice calmly said, "You're late." Then every classroom door in the hallway slammed shut simultaneously. We left immediately. Nobody argued. Nobody investigated further. Nobody wanted answers anymore. The school was demolished 3 days later. Except, according to county records, room 14 didn't exist. The building plans showed only 13 classrooms. No explanation. No correction. Nothing. Just a missing room. A room all 6 of us entered. A room none of US could prove existed. Those incidents stayed with me, but none of them made me quit. What finally broke me happened last year. The call came from a dispatcher I'd worked with for nearly a decade. Megan. Reliable. Calm. Smart. The kind of dispatcher every responder trusts. Her emergency signal activated at 2:17 a.m. Automatic distress code. Highest priority response. Every nearby unit mobilized immediately. We arrived at the dispatch center within minutes. The building was locked. Every door secured. No signs of intrusion. Nothing. Yet the distress signal continued transmitting. Over and over. Inside, we finally forced entry. The dispatch floor was empty. Every workstation abandoned. Every headset lying on desks. Every monitor active. But no people. No dispatchers. No supervisors. Nobody. Just empty chairs. And dozens of incoming 911 calls. Ringing simultaneously. Every line active. Every line unanswered. I approached one console. Against my better judgment, I picked up a headset. The moment I did, someone spoke. Not a caller. Megan. Mikey. My blood froze. She sounded terrified. I asked where she was. The answer still gives me nightmares. I think we're still here. I looked around the empty room. Nothing. No movement. No people. Just monitors. Then Megan continued. Don't open the other door. My stomach dropped. What door? Long silence. Then I heard crying. Not just Megan. Dozens of people crying. Somewhere very far away. Then she whispered, "You already did." The line went dead, and every monitor in the room shut off at once. The entire floor plunged into darkness. For several seconds, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Then emergency lighting activated. Red lights, dim lights, just enough visibility to see shapes. And that's when we noticed something. The room wasn't empty anymore. Every chair was occupied, not by people, by silhouettes. Dark human shapes sitting motionless at every workstation, watching us. Nobody could identify faces. Nobody could describe details. Just silhouettes. Rows and rows of them. The lights flickered once. They vanished. Completely gone. The dispatch center was empty again. Megan was never found. Neither were the others. Officially, it was classified as a mass disappearance. Unofficially, the entire incident was sealed. The recordings disappeared. The reports disappeared. Even some of the responders stopped talking about it. A few transferred. A few retired. One quit the next morning. I lasted another 4 months. Then the call started. Private numbers. Late at night. Always after 2:17. Always silent. Until last week. For the first time in nearly a year, somebody spoke. Megan. Calm. Clear. Like she'd only been gone for a few minutes. She said, "We finally found the exit." Then she laughed. Not because she was happy. Because she sounded afraid. Really afraid. Then she asked me one question. A question I still can't answer. "Mikey, has anyone opened the new door yet?" The call disconnected before I could respond. And 3 nights ago, I was dispatched to an abandoned office building outside Cincinnati. Possible trespasser. Routine call. When I entered the building, I found a door standing alone in the middle of an empty room. No walls. No frame connected to anything. Just a door, standing by itself. And taped to the front was a note. The handwriting looked exactly like Megan's. It said, "Please don't answer if we call again. I haven't slept since." I should have reported the door immediately. Photographed it. Secured the scene. Called for backup. That's what procedure says. Instead, I stood there staring at it. Because something about it felt familiar. Not visually. Emotionally. Like I'd seen it before in a dream I couldn't quite remember. The room itself was empty. Concrete floor. Broken windows. Water stains running down the walls. Nothing unusual. Except for the door. And the note. I checked the building records afterward. There wasn't supposed to be a room there. Not exactly. The blueprint showed a utility corridor. No office. No storage room. No dead-end chamber. Yet somehow I'd spent 10 minutes standing inside it, looking at a door that shouldn't have existed. I called it in. The police arrived. 3 officers. 1 supervisor. Nobody saw the door. Not even the note. They walked through the room repeatedly, confused by why I'd requested assistance. The supervisor eventually asked if I was feeling all right. I didn't argue. I didn't show him the note, because when I looked back, the note was gone. The tape remained. The paper didn't. That was the moment I started questioning myself. 10 years in emergency response changes people. Sleep deprivation, trauma, stress. Maybe I was finally breaking. Maybe all those strange calls and disappearances had gotten into my head. That explanation lasted exactly 2 days. Then I found a photograph. It appeared inside my locker. No envelope. No explanation. Just a photograph sitting on top of my gear bag. The image showed the dispatch center. The same night, everyone vanished. The same room. The same workstations. Only this time the silhouettes were visible. Clearer than before. Human. Dozens of them. Sitting at the consoles. Wearing headsets. Looking directly at the camera. In the center of the room sat Megan. Smiling. The back of the photograph contained a handwritten message. Same handwriting as the note. Same handwriting as every unexplained message I'd received over the past year. We're answering the wrong calls. That sentence stayed with me, because deep down I knew what it meant. Emergency dispatchers spend their lives answering calls for help. But what if some of those calls weren't requests? What if they were invitations? The more I thought about it, the more patterns I noticed. Every strange incident I'd experienced shared one thing. Communication. A phone call. A radio transmission. A voice. Something reaching out. Something establishing contact. The missing driver from the rollover accident. The woman hearing footsteps in her attic. The abandoned school. The vanished dispatchers. All of them involved communication. Someone always answered. Someone always listened. And afterward, things changed. I started reviewing old reports. Not official reports. Personal notes. Forgotten files. Stories responders tell each other during long shifts. Urban legends. Rumors. The stuff nobody writes down. The patterns were impossible to ignore. A firefighter in Dayton responded to reports of voices coming from a burned-down apartment complex. 3 months later, he disappeared. A deputy sheriff received radio transmissions from a patrol unit destroyed years earlier. 2 weeks later, he retired without explanation and moved away. A dispatcher answered a call from her own phone number. She quit the next day. Nobody heard from her again. The details changed. The outcomes didn't. Something was reaching out, and every contact made it stronger or closer. I still don't know which. Then came the worst part, the recordings. I finally obtained access to archived emergency audio, not through official channels. A friend owed me a favor. I spent nearly 40 hours listening. Thousands of calls, most normal, some tragic, a few strange. Then I found one dated 14 years earlier. A dispatcher answered a routine emergency line. The caller immediately asked a question. Not for police, not for an ambulance. A question. How many of us are there now? The dispatcher sounded confused. The caller continued. How many answered? Long silence followed. Then the dispatcher asked for the caller's location. The response chilled me. Not yet. The call ended. 3 months later, that dispatcher vanished. Nobody connected the two events, at least officially, but I started finding more. Dozens more. Same phrases, same questions, different voices, different decades, always ending the same way. Disappearance. The oldest recording dated back nearly 40 years. And that's when I heard something that broke whatever skepticism I still had. The caller identified himself as Lieutenant James Crawford, a responder who disappeared in 1986. The problem? The recording was made in 1979, 7 years before he vanished. I replayed it over and over. Same voice, same name, same person, calling from the future, or something pretending to. At that point, I stopped looking for logical explanations. Logic had already left the building. The only thing that mattered was figuring out what these voices wanted. Then, last month, I received the answer. At least part of it. The call arrived at exactly 2:17 a.m. Private number. I almost ignored it. Almost. But curiosity won. I answered. Static. Then Megan. Clearer than ever. Mikey. I immediately asked where she was. This time she answered. Between calls. The phrase meant nothing to me. She must have noticed my confusion, because she laughed softly. Not happy laughter. Exhausted laughter. The kind people make when they're too tired to cry. Then she said, "We thought it was a place." My heart started racing. What is it then? Long pause. Then, "It's a cue." I didn't understand. Neither did she seem willing to explain. Instead, she said something else. Something far worse. "They've started answering too." I asked who. Silence. Then I heard dozens of voices speaking behind her. Whispering. Listening. Waiting. Megan lowered her voice. "You need to stop responding." I almost laughed. Responding was my job. My entire life. "What do you mean?" The line crackled. Then she whispered. "Every time you answer, another door opens." The call disconnected. And for the first time in 10 years, I resigned. Not immediately. Not dramatically. I finished my shifts. Completed paperwork. Turned in equipment. Made excuses. Nobody questioned it. They probably thought burnout finally caught up to me. Maybe it did. I haven't answered an emergency call in 8 months. I haven't touched a radio. I haven't worn a uniform. I've tried to move on. Most days I almost succeed. Then strange things happen. A phone rings inside an empty room. A voicemail appears without a missed call. A dispatch tone plays through disconnected speakers. Always at 2:17. Always. Last night, something happened that finally convinced me to tell this story. I woke up around 3 in the morning. No reason. Just suddenly awake. The house was silent. Dark. Still. Then I heard a voice downstairs. Megan's voice. Calm. Professional. Exactly the way she sounded while dispatching emergencies. She was speaking through my kitchen radio. A radio I threw away 6 months ago. I followed the sound downstairs. The radio sat on the kitchen table. Powered off. Battery removed. Yet her voice continued. And she wasn't speaking to me. She was speaking to someone else. Dispatching someone. Giving directions. Coordinates. Instructions. Then she suddenly stopped. Silence filled the room. A few seconds later, she spoke again, this time directly to me. Mikey, I froze. The radio crackled. Then, don't answer the next one. The transmission ended. I stood there for a long time. Eventually, I looked at the clock. 2:17 a.m. Exactly. Then my cell phone rang. Private number. It's still ringing. I haven't answered it. Not yet. But the thing that terrifies me most isn't the call. It's the voicemail notification that appeared before the phone ever rang. Because according to the timestamp, the message was left 3 days from now. I stare at that timestamp for nearly 10 minutes. 3 days from now. Not 3 days ago. Not a formatting error. Not a glitch. 3 days in the future. I remember checking my phone settings. Checking the network time. Checking everything I could think of. Nothing was wrong. The voicemail existed. The timestamp existed. And somehow it had been recorded 72 hours from a date that hadn't happened yet. I should have deleted it. Instead, I listened. The message lasted 23 seconds. At first, there was only static. Then distant voices. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. All talking at once. The sound reminded me of a crowded airport terminal. Or a train station. People arriving. People leaving. Endless movement. Then a single voice rose above the others. Mine. My own voice. Calm. Tired. Older somehow. I can't explain that part. It sounded like me after 20 more years of exhaustion. The voice said, "If you're hearing this, don't stay in the house." My stomach dropped. Then the message continued. "They know where you live now." The line crackled. A loud metallic sound echoed somewhere in the background. Then my voice spoke again. "Don't answer, dispatch." The recording cut off. No goodbye. No explanation. Nothing. Just silence. I listened to it 11 times. Every replay made it worse. Because it was unquestionably my voice. Every inflection. Every habit. Every tiny speech pattern. It was me. And somehow I had left myself a warning. The next 3 days were the longest of my life. I barely slept. Barely ate. Every strange noise made me jump. Every unknown number felt dangerous. I disconnected my landline. Powered off my cell phone. Unplugged everything. For a while it seemed to work. No calls. No voices. No strange messages. Then the dreams started. Every night. Exactly the same. I would wake up sitting at a dispatch console. The room stretched endlessly in every direction. Rows of workstations disappearing into darkness. Thousands of operators. All wearing headsets. All answering calls. Every operator looked familiar. Missing firefighters, missing police officers, missing dispatchers, missing responders, people from old reports, people from photographs, people who had vanished. Nobody spoke to each other. Nobody looked away from their screens. They just answered calls, over and over, endlessly. In the dream, I always tried to leave. I never could, because every exit door led back into the room. And every night the same thing happened. Someone would tap me on the shoulder. I would turn around and see myself standing there, older, tired, wearing a headset. Then he'd ask the same question. Every time, "How many have answered now?" I never got a chance to respond, because that's when I always woke up. The third night arrived. The date from the voicemail. The future timestamp. I considered leaving town, driving somewhere remote, throwing my phone into a river. Anything. But deep down I knew it wouldn't matter. Whatever this thing was, distance didn't affect it. Time didn't affect it. Nothing affected it. Around 2 a.m., I sat alone in my living room. Every device powered off. Every curtain closed. Every light on. Waiting. At 2:17 exactly. Every smoke detector in the house activated. Simultaneously, the sound exploded through the rooms. I jumped to my feet. Then the alarm stopped. Instantly. Complete silence. A few seconds later, every smoke detector began speaking. Not beeping. Speaking. Different voices emerged from different rooms. Men, women, children, old people, young people, all speaking at once. The same overlapping chaos I'd heard inside those recordings. The same impossible crowd. Then one voice rose above the others. "Megan, don't answer it." The detectors went silent. Immediately afterwards, someone knocked on my front door. 3 slow knocks. I froze. Nobody should have been there. I lived alone. No visitors. No neighbors nearby. Another knock. 3 more. Slow. Patient. I look through the peephole. Nothing. Empty porch. No person. No vehicle. Nobody. Then I notice something. A shadow. Not outside. Inside. Standing behind me. Reflected faintly in the glass. My blood turned to ice. I spun around. Nobody. The living room was empty. Then the knocking started again. This time from inside the house. Upstairs. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 more. A bedroom door opening and closing somewhere above me. I backed toward the front door. Every instinct screamed at me to leave. Then my cell phone rang. The phone I'd powered off. The phone sitting on the coffee table. Its screen glowed. Private number. I didn't touch it. The ringing continued. Then another phone started ringing. Upstairs. A second one. Then a third. Then dozens. Phones I didn't own. Phones hidden throughout the house. Ringing simultaneously. Every room filled with them. Every hallway. Every closet. Every corner. Endless ringing. My house sounded like a call center. Like dispatch. The realization hit me all at once. Not a place. A queue. That's what Megan had meant. Not a location. A process. A system. Something that existed between communication itself. Every answered call connected to it. Every response fed it. Every conversation opened another path. Another door. Another route. And emergency responders? We were perfect. Because answering calls is what we do. We answer. We listen. We respond. Over and over. Thousands of times. For years, I suddenly understood why so many victims came from emergency services. We weren't being targeted. We were being trained. The ringing stopped. Instantly. Silence. Then my phone displayed a voicemail notification. Another future message. This one dated 8 years ahead. My hands shook as I opened it. The recording began immediately. No static this time. No crowd noise. Just me. Older.